So you've got this one app. On one hand, it's a lifeline for pro-democracy activists trying to organize. On the other, it's a playground for criminals. Today, we're diving into the paradox that is Telegram, the app that's right at the heart of this huge global debate about our privacy and our safety.
And that quote right there, that's everything you need to know about Telegram's founder. It's this defiant, almost radical idea of freedom that the entire platform is built on. So let's dig into how we got here.
You see, you really can't get Telegram without first getting to know its creators, the brothers Pavel and Nikolai Durov. Their backstory is all about rebellion, about pushing back against a powerful government, and that experience shaped every single thing about the app they would eventually build.
These guys weren't just some tech bros. They actually built Russia's version of Facebook, called VK. But they got into major trouble when they refused to hand over data on protesters to the Kremlin. So they basically fled the country, positioning themselves as these digital dissidents determined to build something new, something no government could control.
And that something was Telegram. Their goal? Well, it was total, uncompromising freedom, a true fortress for communication. For years, they were so proud of the fact that they'd given, and I quote, 0 bytes of user data to governments. That claim became their entire brand.
And you know what? That promise of absolute freedom, it was a huge hit. We're talking explosive, unbelievable growth.
So by early 2016, just a few years after it launched, boom, Telegram already had 100 million active users every single month. People were flocking to its privacy-first message.
But then things got really wild. Remember in 2021 when everyone was freaking out about WhatsApp's new privacy policy? Well, that was a gold rush for Telegram. It exploded to 500 million users and, for a little while, was the most downloaded app on the entire planet.
And it just didn't stop. The momentum was incredible. Just about a year later, in June of 2022, it surged again, hitting 700 million users.
And then, by early 2025, 1 billion monthly users. That's more than 1 out of every 8 people on Earth. So what was the secret sauce here? What was pulling all these people in, besides just the promise of privacy?
Well, it turns out it was about raw power. It had features that just blew its competitors out of the water. We're talking channels that could broadcast to millions, groups bigger than a small city, and the ability to send absolutely massive files. It was a power user's dream come true.
But here's the thing. When you combine absolute privacy with incredible power and you have almost zero moderation, well, you create a perfect storm.
So on the one hand, you have Telegram being this absolutely essential tool for people fighting oppression. From movements in Hong Kong, Belarus, and Iran, it was a genuine lifeline. It let them organize and communicate completely outside the reach of state surveillance.
But, and this is the really dark side of the coin, those exact same features made it the perfect hideout for some of the worst people on the planet. ISIS used it to recruit. It became a black market for everything from drugs and scams to child abuse material.
So this brings us to a huge paradox about the app's biggest selling point, its security. And this is where a lot of people get it wrong.
Okay, so end-to-end encryption, what is that? The best way to think about it is like sending a letter in a locked box that only the person you're sending it to has the key for. Not even the post office can peek inside. It's the gold standard, used by apps like Signal and WhatsApp. But how does Telegram use it?
Okay, and this right here is the big catch with Telegram. Here's the deal. Most conversations on the app, we're talking all groups, all channels, and all one-on-one chats, by default, are what they call cloud chats. Now, they are encrypted, but Telegram holds the key, which means they could technically access them. To get that true locked box end-to-end encryption, you have to manually start something called a secret chat, which, by the way, has way fewer features. Security experts have been yelling about this for years, saying it gives people a false sense of security.
So as you can imagine, Telegram's whole "we don't cooperate with anyone" philosophy was bound to lead to a massive showdown with governments all over the world. They just saw it as this lawless space where crime could run wild.
For years, it was this crazy cat-and-mouse game. Russia tried to ban it and failed spectacularly. In fact, that just made it more popular. But recently, the walls started closing in. A court in India actually forced them to hand over user data. Spain blocked it for a bit. And then, the whole standoff came to a head in August of 2024.
Pavel Durov, the digital rebel who had thumbed his nose at governments for a decade, was arrested at an airport in France. And the charges were a direct assault on everything Telegram stood for. Complicity in crime, all because he refused to cooperate.
The guy behind the uncensorable app was suddenly in handcuffs.
And look, this wasn't just France getting upset. His arrest was the result of a chorus of complaints from all over the globe. Authorities in India, where thousands of people were scammed out of tens of millions of dollars, Brazil, which banned the app because neo-Nazi groups were using it, they were all pointing the finger at Telegram.
The whole story of Telegram really forces us to ask a tough question about our digital lives. Its founder wanted to build this perfect bastion of free speech, totally safe from government eyes. But in doing that, he also built a perfect safe haven for some truly terrible people. So the question is, can you even have one without the other? What's the real price of total, absolute privacy? And who's the one that ends up paying it?